All
Sorry,
right,
my
we can go ahead and
allergies have kicked in.
get started. The floor is all yours.
All right, great. So we have Eileen
Mhm.
and I'm not
Yes.
sure, Jay Chestnut. Welcome. I'm Kathy and Ashante. Nice to meet you. And help me if I'm mispronouncing anyone's names.
I think you're good.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll jump in. I'm Catherine Harrison, and I serve as the director of admission at the Walker School. We're in Marietta, and we've had some great students come to us over the years from this program. In fact, one of my all-time favorites, Nick Addison, is a senior, and he just committed to go to Amherst. He's going to play baseball there. So I just actually talked to his parents this morning, which was fun. So we think very highly of the program and the kinds of kids that come to us from the program, and just their curiosity and the way they're prepared, not only content wise, but just to be thinkers and to really remain curious. You know, it's really common to have a child start in kindergarten or first grade with all those amazing questions, but our goal is for them to end still wanting to know. So to have kids that, you know, are reading for pleasure, that's, you know, that was one of the things the dad just shared for me. He went to West Point, and he said, what a gift to have a senior son that still enjoys reading.
Yeah.
Who again is the 6'6" baseball player, you know. So anyway, I'll share a little bit about Walker and what we do and why we do what we do. Can you all share, if you feel comfortable, you can unmute, or you can just put in the chat box the ages of your children, just so we have an idea what age range we're talking about.
I think for the most part, these will be all children heading into kindergarten next year.
Okay.
Very, very small few that are planners who want to look, and their children are, you know, still toddlers. So for the most part, these are for people who are in that about to go into their last year of primary here, or second to last, I would say.
Awesome.
Just based off of the names.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen, and we'll do sort of a virtual walk through our space. As with everyone else, this year is a little bit different. So we're not having outside visitors on campus at this time. We are doing some weekend visits so that you can actually walk around and see this space, but we're obviously committed to keeping everybody as safe as possible and taking every precaution that we can. We hope that shifts. But in the meantime, we're doing events like this, and we share, we do Zoom tours. And then we also encourage you to reach out to current families. There's nothing like talking to a real Walker family in place of talking to someone who is paid by Walker to talk about Walker. I am a Walker parent as well. My children were here in the primary school. We actually left for 2 years, and they came back in 3rd and 4th grade. So I can share through that lens as well. But I'm going to first and foremost share my screen. Let's see. And I'll close out some of my other stuff and then walk you through a little bit. For us, lower school is actually, and I'll go backwards. Lower school for us is 1st through 5th grade. In our primary school, we have our early learners, pre-K and kindergarten. And that's a little bit different than in some, on some campuses. We love it because for our kindergartners, it's a real chance to talk about what leadership looks like. They're the seniors of the primary school building, and they take that really seriously as far as being good role models and how they conduct themselves, and having buddies in the youngest grade. So for us, kindergarten, and I'll talk about what we typically have and then what we have this year. So typically we would have 20 to 22 students with 2 teachers. This year we've actually capped it at 18 because of our spaces. So 2 groups of 18 and being able to space out students in a safe way. So we're a little bit smaller in our kindergarten this year, which is good. It breaks my heart to tell families that no, not yet, and that we have a wait list at that spot. Families we'd love to partner with, but we really feel like health and safety is paramount, and this is all about trust, especially right now. So we'll walk through. This is our lower school lobby. We have a different theme every year. This past year, it was all about national parks. So the kids created their own sequoias. They did arches out of clay. They made things representing different national parks. There was a swamp scene from Okefenokee. I don't know if you can see here. I'll move this around a little bit. So they use QR codes to share information, and this was a great way to incorporate math and obviously geography and get them excited. We took some great field trips and want them to know about national parks and state parks near us, but also to help build their imaginary map of what all is out there. So another big thing that we do, and it starts early for us, is emphasize public speaking. So our kids, whether they're the weather reporter in kindergarten or they're leading the sound sack talk, whatever, but we talk about eyes up and a big voice, and that your voice matters and people want to hear what you have to say. And I think when you frame things in that way, kids get excited about sharing. It always takes my breath away to walk into a lower school assembly and have, a fifth grader leading an assembly of 250 plus kids with the microphone, but it's all student led. And how they learn to express themselves really matters to us. We have recent grads come back, and there's a young woman from Georgia Tech, and I loved it because she said, I ended up at Tech because I'm good at math and science. Guess what? Everyone at Tech is good at math and science. And my difference makers have been that I know how to write, I know how to work well with others, and I'm not afraid to present lab results and findings. And she said, I never thought my public speaking course would make such an impact. And also that she wasn't afraid to go see her professor. She said, I go to office hours and everyone on my freshman hall thinks I'm crazy, but that's the norm because that's what our kids do here starting early. Here's a music project. Obviously, musical instruments look a little bit different this year. I have to say if I'm gonna say a positive about COVID, we got a break from the recorder. So there's no mouth produced instruments being played right now, a lot more on the ukulele and the acoustic guitar they do, and a lot with percussion. But we know kids learn so much through music and through movement. We use the Orff method of teaching music, so it's a lot of movement. They'll do the beat, 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 and rest. So they're learning to read music as early as kindergarten. They don't know that they're reading music necessarily, but that iconic notation really helps. Here is our library. We actually have real books. There is a primary school library and then a lower school library and 2 dedicated librarians. Technology is great, but it should always be used to enhance things. And in fact, we're really careful with our youngest students. Our tech time tends to be more technology, engineering, and creativity. They do a lot of hands-on marble runs, building different structures. And we can talk about incline and acceleration and things like that, but we want them to really experience it. This is one of the most popular places to be. We have guest authors. Typically when the Decatur Book Festival happens, we piggyback off that and have at least 4 or 5 guest authors come to our students. This year, again, it will look a little bit different, but we have different authors planning to come and do book talks with our kids and get them excited. I think probably the most famous, we had the duo from Pete the Cat and before they broke up. But anyway, so one was talking to the kids while the illustrator was painting a painting. We actually have 2 original Pete the Cat paintings in our primary school, which is fun to see kids come in the building and get excited about that. Here's another snapshot of our kiddos. Tinker Space. So again, this is that engineering and creativity hands-on. This is low tech by design. So I was in there the other day and I was talking about there's nothing in here that plugs in, and one of the kids corrected me, there are glue guns that plug in. So, but we really want them getting their hands on the different materials. They'll have a different challenge. You have 20 minutes to build this bridge. Here are your materials. It has to hold this weight. And to see them in age-appropriate ways struggle a bit is really exciting. I think sometimes just as a culture, we've over-engineered everything. So to let kids even struggle with a twist tie or figuring out how to cut cardboard in different ways. So and create a hinge, things like that. So lots of exploration that way. You all feel free to jump in with questions about what you see or what you don't see. I'm going to keep kind of rolling. Here's more of the tech side of things. When kids find out that they can make Legos move, that is like a huge moment. So Lego robotics are really big. Coding starts with us in our primary school. So they use the Kaibo robots, which if you're familiar with those, they're basically indestructible and they're all chunky kid-sized pieces. So they're learning that, and they're learning that coding is really just getting something to do what you need it to do. And again, solving problems. So the excitement in this arena is huge. And starting in first grade, they're old enough to join one of our robotics teams. So that's really fun to see. Oh, here's some of the robotics. These are pictures. I actually hunted for pictures without our kids in their masks. We are practicing social distancing right now, and our kids are wearing masks. We do take lots of mask breaks outside. We've added 7 tents, those huge party tents on campus, so we can hold some outdoor classes. But I think now more than ever, it's fun to just see what things hopefully we'll return to as we all figure out this next normal. And I miss seeing their whole faces. So we have 2 science labs, actually 3 if you count the one that's used for kindergarten, which is in a separate building. You'll notice there are no stools here. That's actually typical and normal. We want them totally involved. So I might come in on a tour. They did a forensics unit not too long ago. I got fingerprinted to see if I was the person responsible for the crime scene. And they wisely pointed out that I have keys to all the rooms, so it very well could have been me. So I got fingerprinted by the kids, and for them to talk about arches and whorls and all those things and really own the learning. Another lab I love is when they really discover Bernoulli's principle of physics, which I think I remember talking about in high school, but for me, it was something flat on a piece of paper that I memorized for a test and really didn't hold on to. For them, it's airflow and ping pong balls and hair dryers, and it's amazing. The aha moments happen at every turn, and that's when a kid really remembers and can apply knowledge. So we love that excitement. In 5th grade, they actually take a combined class of science and engineering. We were finding out that our kids understood the mathematical concepts and they understood the science concepts, but they didn't understand that how math and science work together. So our 5th grade math teacher and our 5th grade science teacher, Dr. Martin, who's a former vet, got together and created this this opportunity, and they do a different project every year. Last year it was a putt-putt course around campus. So they had power tools and everything, and they're creating this putt-putt course with incline and all sorts of stuff. So obviously lots of math and lots of physics involved there. Oh, that's Sam. I didn't know that picture was in here. He's such a cutie. Okay. This is what a lower school classroom looks like typically. So again, we would have 2 teachers dedicated to each classroom, which we love. That means, you live with young children. They have big feelings in those little bodies. So whether it's that first loose tooth that some kids are scared about or excited about, or hurt feelings or a skinned knee, all those things need to be taken care of in a really meaningful way, but we don't want learning to stop for everyone else. And I think that's one of the biggest strengths of our lower school program is that student-teacher ratio and that guided learning and exploration. You can see that there's alternate seating. Some kids sit on those wobbly stools, some kids sit on exercise balls, some kids use a standing desk. We know that children learn differently, and actually different kids at different times of day need something different. So letting them move, so lots of brain breaks are really important to us. And I'm not sure if you can see in the distance, there's some things involving their math routine. So starting in pre-K actually, but really officially in kindergarten, we use Math in Focus, which is the Americanized version of Singapore math. And it's a real shift. I'm obviously older than any parent that would have a child the age of your children, but I definitely come from the memorize and regurgitate time in life. And then later it was application. Like, memorize all the stuff and then we'll teach you how to use it. And there was always this disconnect between computation and actual word problems. So these kids who come in early, you know, instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, okay, let's show me 8. Well, if I put it in 2 groups, is it still 8? Yes, because 4 and 4 still makes 8. What happens if I put it in this kind of group? So one warm up that our kindergartners were doing the other day was with Unifix cubes. So they had always to 10. So we're always anchoring to 10, and they had to play chop it. So they have the 10 cubes behind their back, and their friend comes up and nods at one of their arms, and they have to show them the cube. So if I show you 4, you have to quickly tell me what's behind my back. So that's solving for X, pre-algebraic thinking, but it's just, you know, getting them to, making the that shift from the concrete to the abstract. Can you really understand what you're doing? So that's a little warm up they'll do, actually starting pre-K, but at the beginning of kindergarten as well. So it's not this linear progression where it's only addition, then only subtraction, then multiplication, then division, but you're always putting numbers together and taking them apart. And we're really careful about the language we use around math as well. We actually had a parent coffee talk via Zoom. I think one thing, parents want to help in all these conversations, but they need a little coaching too, because sometimes it's very different from how they learn. So I'll pick on TJ, one of my favorite dads, but he said, well, I learned 4 times 4 is 16. And that's how Bethany's going to learn it. 4 times 4 is 16. And the head of our math department, who teaches beyond BC calculus, I don't even understand half of what she teaches in her upper school. She said, well, what if we use the language 4 groups of 4 is 16? Because kids, what does times mean? But 4 groups of 4 is 16. And he said, well, what does that matter? And she said, okay, well, let's multiply and divide fractions. And so she started making him do that, and she shared her screen, and he's like, I think I'm sweating. I don't remember all these rules. So she said, okay, well, forget it. Just listen to what I'm saying. What if I may ask you to take a half of a fourth? He's like, well, that would be an eighth. And she said, exactly. The language we use around math starting early really matters. So even TJ bought in by then. Again, here's a math classroom. This is to show you kind of what we look like right now with this spacing. Typically, we love to have them working in small groups because that piece is really important. Being able to listen to ideas and share ideas, but now we're giving everybody as much space as we can. In all of our classrooms, we have an in-class library, and that's really important to us too, in addition to our library for the whole building, because when a child finishes a book, you really want to put that next book in their hand. Even if it's 5-10 minutes in transition, and getting them excited about that next book. Our kids actually just worked on their book commercials last week, so they recorded in front of the green screen. And I was interviewing a 2nd grader to ask about our book. It's a Roald Dahl book, and actually that I knew quite well, but she said, I can't tell you the rest. They call me Big Miss Harrison. I'm 6 feet tall. There's another Miss Harrison who's about 4'11" on campus. So she said, Big Miss Harrison, I can't tell you anymore. You're gonna have to check it out for yourself. But I just love that excitement around reading. We know reading builds strong writers and strong readers, and giving them time to actually read is important. So, and here, this was their Flat Stanley project. Interesting to see all the places that Flat Stanley has gone. And then, I don't know if you can see these, excuse me, spaces to the right. These are typically used for math rotation, so you can write on these tables. That differentiated instruction is really important, small group instruction, because some kids are hungry for more. They need to be pushed and stretched in math or reading or writing, and then some students need support. And often it can be the same kid. I need to be pushed here, but I need a little bit of help here. So how do we differentiate? And the strength of the small group is a really important piece of that. And on a typical year, we'd have parents come in and help with those math rotations, which is really fun. And to be guest readers, we're having to do all that virtually right now, which is a little tricky, but it's nice for parents to know faces and names that they're hearing at home. We believe in that parent school, that homeschool partnership. It makes all the difference. And when there's trust, and when we show you that we know your child, and when we listen to you about aspects that are happening at home, that's how we build that trust, and that's how we maximize the experience for each child. So we want to know if it was a bad morning and they're coming in hot. We want to know. We want to know if there is an issue with a grandparent who might be ill, we really want to work alongside you. It's more important now than ever. It really is. We have a dedicated counselor in our lower school and in our primary school, and they're in and out of the classroom, and they're working with kids in small groups. But kids won't show us what they know, and they sure won't tell us what they don't know until they feel safe and they feel seen and they feel known. So that's the most important piece, really, to starting each year. And here's a little snapshot of what life typically looks like. Those are our 5th graders, and they're our leaders in our lower school building. Get this out of the way. Art is a huge part of their day. We work a lot with clay, painting, paper mache. We make huge messes, all those things as a parent that we would love to say, yes, let's dive in and do that at the kitchen table, but that's not necessarily a reality. At least it was not in my house. So it's fun to see all the things that they create in art class. Here are some of those displays from our national parks. This is on their portraits of Teddy Roosevelt. Again, movement, physical education, PE is a huge part of our day. This kiddo right here is actually, he went to Suzuki. I don't know which, he's now in 5th grade. Anyway, great kid. But that movement is really important. So we have PE 3 out of the 5 days for kids. We have recess, obviously for all kids, and we have recess through 8th grade, which I think is another difference maker. Just because a kid leaves 5th grade does not mean he or she does not need to get outside anymore. That is crazy. So we have 30 minutes outside in the courtyard in the field, and it's probably one of the coolest parts of my day. I teach 6th grade. I get to teach one class, but I also have recess duty, which is one of my favorite things to sign up for, to see these middle school kids playing foursquare and playing kickball and throwing the frisbee and just being kids, not looking down, not on any sort of device. We are phone free through 8th grade. So our kids have devices, but they put them up each day. We have a really strong honor code policy, and they're great about it. At 7:45 each morning, they go up. It's another fun thing I get to do. I walk down the middle school hall and kick everybody off of any device, and they'll give me the but they're secretly grateful because it gives them a chance to connect with each other, and look up and look around and connect. So this is our playground, speaking of outside time, and then we have an attached garden as well. We're using the garden space for a lot of our outdoor class time as well. There's a little pond there. So this is typically our lunchroom. Right now we're eating lunch in our classrooms, so we have 8 people on campus that were trained for contact tracing through Johns Hopkins. So that's an aspect that we're taking very seriously, and we're very careful about each piece of that. So right now we're bringing the food to the classrooms. So, but I can't wait till we return to this space because it's actually one of the most fun places, and we invite parents and special guests to come for lunch. It is hilarious and something you should take advantage of to see how things really work and to hear all the comments made by lower school classmates. Here's that outdoor garden space. We made a shift a few years ago. Instead of having a holiday party where kids would sort of eat so much sugar and leave with stomach aches and not feeling great, they do have a small party, but they call it a day of giving now. So they have some sort of service project that they're engaged in. We feel that this is a really important part of preparing our kids to be part of a bigger world. I don't know if you know much about Walker. We're a non-faith-based school, which means we welcome all faiths. So we talk about Diwali, we have a Hanukkah celebration, we'll talk about Christmas traditions, we'll talk about Kwanzaa. We're actually off today for Yom Kippur, in observation of that holiday. And so as a parent, I think it's been one of the most enriching parts of the experience for my own kids. I remember my 8th grade son, or maybe he was in 7th grade. There was one week where he went to a bar mitzvah and then Diwali celebration, and then went on a youth retreat with our church. And I think for a child that age to realize there's a big world out there is a real gift. So here is some of our athletic facilities. This is our main gym, and actually the curtain in the middle drops down for PE classes. So this is the gym that our lower school students use. And we like the interaction. We're a K through 12 or early learners through 12. So we like the interaction with our quote unquote big kids. We like that they're coming to sporting events and they know our younger kids, and in a normal year they have reading buddies and all sorts of things. But we like that connection. Here's our auditorium. We did not have a spring play last year. I'll be interested to see what happens this year for our lower school students. There's talk of doing outdoor sort of presentation. And then here are some other links, and I think I'm gonna come back to that and see if I can answer any specific questions that you may have.
Well, first, I just want to say thank you so much for that presentation. It was amazing. I feel like you answered pretty much all of my questions. Actually, there's a few, and I'm sorry if you kind of went over this. Do you guys require the JATP test?
We typically do. We're actually not this year. We had lots of discussion around this. They're offering a virtual component, and then they're offering an in-person component. And then for us, it felt like we would be comparing two very different snapshots.
Yeah.
And to be honest, it's really weird for us. We feel, there are people that aren't sitting for the bar exam right now, and we have colleges that are going to test free admission. So we like our admission process, and we like having that piece. But we're, for this year, gonna sit out with a JATP.
Okay.
What is your admissions process? What does that look like, and what are some of the changes that you've done because of COVID-19?
Great question. So typically we would have an in-person visit. We're still offering that. Will look a little bit different, and it'll be much more controlled. We did over the summer go to a Zoom session. That's hard on kids. And every child is different. Some kids have embraced the Zoom. They might have grandparents that live abroad or no problem. We feel like we can get a sense of who they are. For other kids, gosh, as parents, you've been telling them not to be stuck to a screen. And so every situation is just really different. So we're working with families. And that goes for the in-person visit as well. Everyone, what a weird dynamic. They don't talk to strangers. Now go tell these strangers everything you know. That's so weird. So even in a normal, whatever normal year is, we often would have kids come back for a visit, or we'd offer a mini tour. We're like, let's walk around the building for 15 or 20 minutes and see the playground and find the bathroom. And because kids can't imagine, they can't imagine a different school space. And then if you just bring them there and say, now perform, that's a really weird dynamic. We lean heavily on Teacher Rex. We feel like that is a better picture of who each child is. Those are caring adults, especially when we talk about schools and programs we know and respect so much. That gives us a much better read.
That's true.
Great. Also, too, I know you had said for the lower school that it is 2 teachers per class. So is it the same in primary as well? Because I know you guys reduced the capacity. So what's the ratio for the primary?
It is. So we're right now 2 teachers. For this year, we're maxing, I think it's actually 16 with the 2 teachers.
Okay.
Typically in kindergarten, we would go to 20, but this year the rooms are smaller in that space. And so we've done, I'm sure y'all are the same. I've never measured so many things in my entire life. That was a lot of the summer. So measuring and, having, and trying to do it in fun ways with little kids, having the pool noodles out that look like big crayons and, everyone's had to get creative.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Are you guys using an app, excuse me, for your drop off and pickup, or carpool? Are you guys also using an app? I know that's kind of the consensus with everyone.
yes, and I can't believe I just blanked on the name of it. It's called School Pass. Had to look
School
on
Pass. Okay. Yeah, that's the common one.
Yeah,
So I just
they've
wanted
done
to
a good
see.
job, I think, and from a parent perspective. So it's a temp check each day, and then that wellness check. And then we've always had one nurse, but this year we have 2 nurses working with her.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's awesome. Okay. And you guys are also not allowing any parents inside of the buildings or facilities unless it's like a weekend visit or something.
Yes, we are allowing it in our lower school because that building is not licensed by Bright from the Start. So
Okay.
we just, Bright from the Start.
Oh, yeah.
That's a whole other Zoom. We could talk about that.
I was
But
gonna say, we know right from the start.
Yeah.
So say no more.
So in that space, what we'll do is time a visit that we can walk through a space, but then we would do most of our talking outside in the courtyard or outside that, we wouldn't enter into a space where students are currently, but I think it's nice for parents to see a snapshot, like, in a slideshow or a virtual tour, we can kind of show you anything.
Yeah.
So to let you, we've even run around with a Zoom camera. So
Yeah.
if you're up for some, fighting motion sickness, and we'll take a little Dramamine, there are lots of different ways to do this.
Yeah.
I really do love that you guys acknowledge different holidays and religion. So
Mhm.
what is your diversity like at the school?
So we're 39% students of color. Our primary school is our most diverse division. And I think that really reflects the demographics in Cobb County.
Yeah.
And with our families of younger children. So something we're really excited about. And obviously the last few months, there've been lots of conversations around not just diversity, but what does it feel like to be truly included? We had our families reach out over the summer, African American Affinity Group families, and they sent an invite to our board chair, our head of school, to me, and to our community advisor, and said, we're reading all the Black at posts for all the different schools, and we want to come and enter into conversation. We really feel like a family, and we feel like the best way for our family to grow is to have these conversations with you all and with faculty and with other parents. So it's messy, hard, important, painful work, as one parent shared, and she was quoting someone else, and forgive me for not remembering who it is, but we're at the intersection of pain and possibility.
Yeah.
So what we do right now really matters, and listening to our kids, and that was a big part of summer connection points, is just letting our kids talk. What does this feel like for you as a 15-year-old Black male? What does this feel like for you as a 6th grade girl from a multiracial family? And that's a point where I always encourage families to talk to other families,
Mhm.
and listen to the different stories. What do we claim to be versus what are we doing? What does it really feel like? So
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I don't know if I have any more questions because you covered pretty much everything.
Same. Yeah. It was,
Any questions? Yeah.
no, it was wonderful. Thank you. So informative.
well, thank you all for making time and letting me do what I love to do, which is talk about Walker. And if you're like me as a parent, I'm doing this all on the college side. So I've been visiting colleges. I have a senior and a junior. So,
Oh, wow.
But the questions come up later, and please reach out if there are families you'd like to talk to from a certain area, from Smyrna, from Mableton, from Sandy Springs. Happy to put you in touch with families if they're families, specific international families or families from a certain demographic. Happy to put you in touch with real parents.
Right. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right. Well, you're free to go, and we will definitely be in touch. I'm going to give all of the parents your information, so if they want to reach out, they'll probably just email you. Other than that, we will hopefully see you next year in person.
I hope so. I hope so. You all stay well and be well.
You too. Thank you.
Thanks.